Elena Vasquez walked into the grand chamber with her head held high. The walls stretched up so far that they seemed to touch the stars visible through the clear dome above. 12 different alien species sat in a circle around her. Each one looked different. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with their own light. The human ambassador had been to this place many times before. Alpha Centauri Station was where the galaxy made its big decisions. For over 100 years, humans had been part of this group. They had shared their music, their stories, and their science with the galaxy. They had helped build cities on dead worlds and cure diseases that killed millions. But today felt different. The aliens would not look at her directly. Their translators buzzed with quiet whispers. Elena knew something bad was coming. Speaker Veltar rose from his seat. He was tall and blue, with 4 arms that moved like water. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire chamber. Ambassador Vasquez, he began, we have called you here to discuss the future of humanity and galactic society. Elena stepped forward. I am ready to listen, Speaker. The Council has made a decision. It was not easy, but it was necessary. Veltar's 4 eyes looked sad, but his voice stayed strong. Humanity can no longer be part of our community. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. She felt her knees go weak, but she forced herself to stay standing. What do you mean? Your people are too dangerous, said Councillor Zhek, a creature that looked like a walking crystal. The war with the Zephyrian Trade Consortium showed us what humans do when they are angry. That was self-defense, Elena shouted. They attacked our cargo ships first. You destroyed their entire battle fleet, Veltar replied. 50,000 beings died in one day. No other species has ever been so violent so quickly. Elena felt anger rising in her chest. The Zephyrians were pirates. They were stealing from everyone, not just us. We stopped them when nobody else would, by killing them all, added Magistrate Coral, who looked like a giant insect. Your species thinks violence solves everything. You have done this before on other worlds. We have also built hospitals, Elena said, her voice getting louder. We have shared our technology. We have helped feed hungry populations on 12 different worlds. Yes, Veltar nodded. And we are grateful. But your good actions cannot balance out your violent nature. Humans are too unpredictable, too quick to fight, too willing to destroy when diplomacy could work instead. The chamber fell silent. Elena could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Around the circle, the alien representatives nodded their heads or made their species' version of agreement. What exactly are you saying? Elena asked, though she already knew. All human colonies outside the Sol system must be abandoned, Veltar announced. You have 1 Earth year to bring your people home. After that, a barrier will be placed around your star system. No human ship will be allowed to leave. No alien ship will be allowed to enter. You cannot be serious, Elena whispered. We are completely serious, said Councillor Zhek. This decision is final. All 12 species voted yes. Elena looked around the circle. These beings had been her friends and partners for years. Ambassador Thren of the Valdorian Empire had shared drinks with her just last month. Secretary Yilma from the Gossamer Collective had helped her write the peace treaty that ended the mining rights war. Now they all stared at her with cold, distant expressions. You are condemning billions of innocent people, Elena said. Our children, our elderly, our artists and teachers, they have done nothing wrong. They are human, Magistrate Coral said simply. That is enough. This is not justice, Elena replied, her voice shaking with emotion. This is fear. Perhaps, Veltar agreed, but fear keeps the galaxy safe. Your species has shown us what happens when humans are left unchecked. We will not let that happen again. Security guards stepped forward. They were not hostile, but their message was clear. Elena's time was up. Ambassador Vasquez, Veltar said, you have 72 hours to leave this station. A transport ship is waiting to take you back to human space. Use your time wisely to prepare your people for what comes next. Elena wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them they were making the biggest mistake in galactic history. Instead, she took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. Speaker Veltar, honored counselors, she said formally, I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you had a choice. You chose to treat humanity as criminals instead of partners. You chose fear over friendship. She turned to face each alien representative. Some of you I have called friends. I trusted you with my life and the lives of my people. Today you have shown me that trust was foolish. The chamber remained silent as Elena continued. You believe you are protecting the galaxy from humanity. You are wrong. You are protecting humanity from the galaxy. And someday, you will understand the difference. Without waiting for a response, Elena turned and walked toward the exit. The security guards followed her at a respectful distance. As she reached the door, Veltar called out, "Ambassador, we truly are sorry. We wish there could have been another way." Elena stopped but did not turn around. "No, speaker. You are not sorry. You are scared. And fear makes people do terrible things to innocent beings." The doors closed behind her with a soft hiss. 3 days later, Elena stood on the bridge of the transport ship Horizon. Through the main window, she could see the barrier forming around the Sol system. It looked like a wall made of twisted space and strange light. The alien ships that put it there were already leaving. Captain Morrison stood beside her. He was a good man who had served humanity for 30 years. Now his eyes were full of sadness and anger. "What do we do now, Ambassador?" he asked. Elena watched the barrier grow stronger. Soon it would be impossible to break through. The galaxy's most advanced technology would keep humanity trapped like animals in a cage. "We survive, Captain," she said quietly. "We adapt. We grow stronger." And then, Elena turned away from the window and looked at the captain. Her eyes burned with determination that he had never seen before. "And then we show them what humanity can really do when we are left alone with our thoughts and our anger and our dreams." The Horizon crossed through the barrier just before it sealed completely. Behind them, the galaxy continued its business as if humanity had never existed. Ahead of them, Earth waited in the darkness, full of people who would soon learn that they were alone in the universe. But Elena knew something the aliens did not understand. Humanity had always done its best work when nobody believed in them. Now they would have all the time in the world to prove just how dangerous a motivated, angry, and forgotten species could become. The exile had begun, and with it humanity's greatest chapter was about to be written. 3 years after the barrier closed around the Sol system, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her laboratory deep inside the moon's surface. The room buzzed with the sounds of computers and strange machines. Charts and equations covered every wall. Her hair was gray now, though she was only 35 years old. The stress of trying to save humanity had aged her quickly. Outside the laboratory, the solar system was in chaos. 15 billion people had returned from the lost colonies in just 1 year. Earth could not feed them all. Mars colonies worked day and night to grow food, but it was not enough. Riots broke out in the megacities. Governments fell and new ones rose in their place. But the worst part was not the hunger or the crowding. It was the knowledge that humanity was truly alone. Sarah looked at her latest test results and sighed. Project Prometheus had been running for 3 years now. They were trying to build a new kind of engine that could break through the alien barrier. So far, every attempt had failed. Dr. Chen? Her assistant, Marcus Webb, entered the lab carrying a cup of coffee. "The morning. Test results are ready." Sarah took the coffee gratefully. She had not slept in 36 hours. "What do they show?" "The quantum resonance readings are getting stronger," Marcus said excitedly. "I think we are close to something big." Sarah had heard those words many times before. Each time, hope had turned to disappointment. But she kept working because giving up meant accepting that humanity would die slowly in their solar prison. "Show me," she said. They walked to the main testing chamber. Inside a protective cage, a small metal box floated in the air. Energy patterns danced around it like colored lightning. The box was trying to do something that should have been impossible: move through space without using normal physics. The quantum field is stable, Marcus explained, reading numbers from a computer screen. "But we still cannot control where it goes." Sarah studied the readings. For months, they had been able to make objects disappear from one place and appear in another. But the objects always came back broken, or they appeared in the wrong location, or they simply vanished forever. "What if we are thinking about this wrong?" Sarah said suddenly. "What do you mean?" "We are trying to break through the barrier. But what if we do not need to break through it? What if we can go around it?" Marcus frowned. "Around it?" "But the barrier surrounds the entire system." Sarah walked to a whiteboard and began drawing. "The barrier exists in normal space, but quantum tunneling does not use normal space. It creates its own path through reality." She drew a circle representing the Sol system, then drew a line that seemed to go through the circle without touching its edges. "If we can master quantum tunneling, we do not need to fight the barrier. We can just step outside of the space where the barrier exists. Marcus stared at the drawing. That is completely crazy. Crazy enough to work? Before Marcus could answer, alarms began ringing throughout the facility. A voice echoed through the speakers. All personnel to emergency stations. We have incoming ships. Sarah and Marcus ran to the main control room. Through the huge windows that looked out at space, they could see dots of light moving toward the moon. At first, Sarah thought they were alien ships come to check on their prisoners. But as the ships got closer, she realized they were human vessels, old cargo ships and passenger transports that had been hiding in the outer system. General Marcus Reeves appeared on the communication screen. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was strong and determined. Dr. Chen, we need to talk. An hour later, Sarah sat in a secure meeting room with the general and 5 other people she had never met before. They all had the same look in their eyes, the look of people who had been planning something dangerous. Doctor, the general began, what I am about to tell you is classified at the highest level. There are people in this room who officially do not exist. Sarah nodded. I understand. When the aliens forced us back to Sol, not everyone came home. Some of our people stayed hidden in the dark spaces between the stars. They have been building something. One of the strangers, a woman with short black hair, leaned forward. We call it the Silent Fleet. Ships and stations hidden throughout the outer system and beyond. The aliens think we are all trapped on Earth and Mars. They are wrong. How many ships? Sarah asked. 300 combat vessels. 50 construction platforms. 20 deep space bases. The woman's eyes gleamed. And we are building more every day. General Reeves pulled up a holographic display showing the solar system. Red dots marked hidden bases scattered throughout the asteroid belt and beyond Pluto's orbit. We have been waiting for Project Prometheus to succeed, he said. When you perfect your quantum drive, we will be ready to leave this prison. Sarah felt her heart racing. You want to attack the aliens? No, the general said firmly. We want to disappear. Let them think humanity is dying slowly in Sol while we build a new civilization somewhere. They will never find us. But where would we go? Sarah asked. The entire galaxy is mapped. Every star system is claimed by one species, or another. The woman with black hair smiled. Not every star system, Doctor. The aliens only live in the spiral arms of the galaxy. They think the spaces between the arms are empty and worthless. She touched a control, and the hologram changed to show the entire galaxy. The spiral arms glowed with different colors representing different alien territories, but between the arms were vast dark spaces. The void zones, Sarah whispered. Exactly. No intelligent life. No valuable resources by alien standards. But plenty of room for humanity to grow and develop without interference. Sarah stared at the display. The void zones were enormous, each one larger than all of human space had ever been. If they could reach those areas, how long do you think it will take to perfect the quantum drive? General Reeves asked. Sarah thought about her latest test results. The breakthrough Marcus had mentioned seemed more promising than usual. If we are really close to a solution, maybe 6 months, maybe a year. We will be ready, the woman said. The Silent Fleet can evacuate 50 million people in the first wave. Essential personnel, scientists, military forces, and volunteers for the colony ships. What about everyone else? Sarah asked. That depends on how quickly you can build more quantum drives, General Reeves replied. But do not worry, Doctor. We will not leave anyone behind. Humanity will survive this exile. Sarah looked around the room at these people who had been planning humanity's escape for 3 years. They had never lost hope, even when things seemed darkest. There is something else, she said. Something I discovered in my research that might interest you. She pulled up her own files on the hologram. The quantum tunneling effect does not just let us move through space. It seems to affect time as well. Objects that tunnel successfully arrive at their destination slightly before they left their starting point. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at Sarah. Are you saying we can travel backwards in time? Marcus asked. No, but we might be able to communicate with the past, send information backward to warn ourselves of dangers or share discoveries. General Reeves leaned back in his chair. Doctor, I think you just gave us the key to building an empire that no one will see coming. Sarah nodded slowly. The aliens had exiled humanity to protect themselves from what they saw as a violent, unpredictable species. They had no idea that Their punishment would force humanity to develop technologies beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. "General," Sarah said, "give me 6 months. I will give you the stars." Outside the meeting room, Earth continued to struggle with hunger and overcrowding. But deep in the moon's hidden laboratories and in secret bases scattered throughout the solar system, humanity was preparing for the greatest journey in its history. The long night of exile was almost over. Soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when you tried to cage a species that refused to be contained. Captain Zhang Wei stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Pathfinder and watched a new world appear on the main screen. The planet was brown and rocky, with no signs of life on its surface. 200 years ago, no human would have looked twice at such a dead place, but that was before the exile. That was before humanity learned to see opportunities where others saw only emptiness. "Initial scans show the planet has a solid iron core," reported Lieutenant Santos from her position at the science station. "Lots of rare minerals in the crust, and there are 3 asteroid belts in this system." Zhang nodded with satisfaction. "Perfect. Another world for the mining fleets." It had been 200 years since Dr. Sarah Chen perfected the quantum drive. 2 centuries since the first human ships slipped out of the Sol system like ghosts in the night. The aliens still believed humanity was trapped and slowly dying in their solar prison. They had no idea that 50 billion humans now lived in the void spaces between the galaxy's spiral arms. "Captain," came a voice from the communication station, "we are receiving a priority message from New Geneva." Zhang smiled. New Geneva was humanity's new capital, a massive artificial world built around a neutron star in the Kepler void. It was beautiful and impossible, a city the size of a solar system that existed where the aliens believed nothing could survive. "Put it through to my private office," Zhang said. Lieutenant Santos continued the planet survey. "I want a full report ready for the colony planners." In his office, Zhang activated the quantum communication array. The message appeared instantly, despite being sent from thousands of light years away. Quantum communication was one of humanity's greatest achievements, a technology that made real-time conversation possible across vast distances. President Maria Santos appeared as a 3-dimensional image in the middle of the room. She was Elena, Vasquez's successor, chosen to lead humanity through its golden age of expansion. Like Elena, she had the determined look of someone who refused to accept defeat. "Captain Zhang," she began, "I have new orders for your exploration fleet." "Yes, Madam President. Our deep space telescopes have detected something unusual in the Helix Void. Artificial structures that predate any known civilization. I want you to investigate immediately." Zhang felt his pulse quicken. Ancient alien ruins were the most valuable discoveries in human space. Every major technological breakthrough had come from studying the artifacts left behind by vanished civilizations. "How old do we think these structures are?" Zhang asked. "At least 50,000 years, maybe older." President Santos leaned forward. "Captain, if these ruins contain technology beyond our current understanding, they could change everything. We might finally have the tools to return to galactic society as equals, or as masters," Zhang said quietly. The president smiled. "That thought has occurred to me as well." 3 weeks later, Zhang's fleet arrived at the coordinates President Santos had provided. What they found there made even experienced void explorers gasp in amazement. Floating in empty space was a structure the size of a small moon. It was perfectly spherical and covered with patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed directly. Energy readings showed it was still active after millennia of abandonment. "Captain," Lieutenant Santos called out, "I am reading massive power sources inside that thing, and the outer hull is made of materials we do not recognize." Zhang ordered the fleet to maintain a safe distance while they studied the alien artifact. It took 3 days to find an entrance, a section of the hull that became permeable when approached by ships using quantum drives. Inside, they discovered wonders beyond imagination. Halls filled with floating crystals that contained entire libraries of information. Machines that could rearrange matter at the atomic level. Most importantly, they found records of the civilization that built this place. The ruins belonged to a species called the Architects. They had existed millions of years ago, long before any of the current galactic civilizations appeared. They had built an empire that spanned entire galaxy clusters before vanishing for unknown reasons. But they had left behind gifts for whoever found their ruins. Technologies so advanced that even understanding them would take decades. Blueprints for machines that could build worlds, weapons that could destroy stars. Most valuable of all, the secret of consciousness transfer. the ability to move a mind from one body to another, even across vast distances. Zhang sent daily reports back to New Geneva, each one more excited than the last. President Santos immediately ordered construction fleets to the Helix Void to begin studying and copying the ancient technologies. Meanwhile, in other parts of human space, the Terran Federation continued to grow. Mining operations stripped entire asteroid belts of rare metals. Terraforming ships turned dead worlds into garden paradises using techniques the aliens had never imagined. Most importantly, artificial intelligence development reached new heights of sophistication. While the galactic civilizations feared AI and kept strict limits on computer intelligence, humanity embraced the partnership between biological and digital minds. Human AI teams designed ships that could think for themselves, planned colonies that adapted to changing conditions, and solved scientific problems in days that would have taken years before. Dr. Elena Vasquez, now 150 years old thanks to advanced life extension technology, worked in the Federation's primary research facility on New Geneva. The former ambassador had become humanity's leading expert on alien psychology and culture. Her job was to prepare for the day when humanity revealed itself to the galaxy. The Altarians will try to negotiate, she explained to a room full of military and political leaders. Their species values compromise above all else. The Zephyrians will immediately try to find a way to profit from contact with us. The Valdorians will want to test our military strength. And the overall galactic response? Asked Admiral Chen Lin, commander of humanity's combined fleets. Panic, Elena said simply. They exiled us because they thought we were too dangerous to control. Now we will return with technology that makes their most advanced civilizations look primitive. They will assume we want revenge. Do we? Asked President Santos. Elena considered the question carefully. Some humans certainly do. But revenge would be a waste of our advantages. We have become something greater than we were when they exiled us. We should act like it. Admiral Chen Lin pulled up a holographic display showing human space. Thousands of star systems now flew human flags. Billions of people lived and worked in places the aliens thought were empty wasteland. The Federation's fleets included ships that could appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly, weapons that could crack planets, and defensive systems that made human space nearly impossible to invade. Madam President, the Admiral said, my fleets are ready. We could reveal ourselves to the galaxy whenever you choose. President Santos looked around the room at humanity's leaders. 2 centuries of exile had changed them. They were harder now, more confident, less concerned with what other species thought of them. But they were also wiser and more patient than their ancestors had been. Not yet, she decided. Let us continue watching and learning. When we do reveal ourselves, I want it to be on our terms at a time of our choosing. How will we know when the time is right? Asked Elena. President Santos smiled. When the galaxy needs us more than it fears us. Outside the meeting room, construction continued on New Geneva's latest project, a ring of defense platforms that could protect the entire artificial world from any conceivable attack. Similar defenses were being built around every major human world. Humanity had learned its lesson from the exile. Never again would they be caught unprepared. Never again would other species be able to dictate their fate. In the void between the stars, the Terran Federation grew stronger every day. Soon, very soon, they would be ready to return to galactic society. But this time, humanity would not come as supplicants hoping for acceptance. They would come as conquerors offering partnership. Council Speaker Veltar stood in his private office aboard Alpha Centauri Station, staring out at the stars through the massive window. He was old now, very old by Altarian standards. His blue skin had faded to pale gray, and his forearms moved, slowly with the weight of centuries. But his mind was still sharp, sharp enough to see the patterns that younger beings missed, sharp enough to recognize that something was very wrong in the galaxy. The communication device on his desk chimed softly. Speaker, came the voice of his assistant. Counselor Zek has arrived for the emergency meeting. Send them in, Veltar replied. The door opened and the crystal being that served as head of galactic security entered the office. Zek's normally bright surface was dim with worry. Speaker, we have a serious problem, Zek announced without any greeting. The reports from across the galaxy are getting worse. Veltar turned from the window. Show me. A holographic display, activated in the center of the room. It showed a map of known space with hundreds of red warning markers scattered across different sectors. In the past 6 months, Zek explained, 17 major pirate organizations have simply vanished. Not defeated in battle, vanished completely. Ships, bases, personnel, everything. Veltar studied the display. Pirates disappear all the time. They fight each other or planetary governments hunt them down. Not like this, Jack insisted. The Crimson Fleet had over 200 ships and controlled 3 star systems. Last month, patrol vessels found their bases empty. No signs of battle, no debris fields, no distress calls. The pirates were just gone. Another marker on the display caught Veltar's attention. What about this one in Valdorian space? Archaeological theft, Jack replied. Someone has been stealing ancient artifacts from dig sites across the galaxy. Not just valuable items, entire ruins have been stripped clean. The Valdorians are furious, but they cannot find any trace of who is responsible. Veltar frowned. The implications were troubling. How is that possible? Those sites have security systems designed by the best minds in the galaxy. The security systems are not being bypassed, Jack said quietly. They are not detecting any intruders at all. Whatever is taking these artifacts, it exists outside our ability to perceive or track. The holographic display changed to show the Sol system, humanity's prison for the past 2 centuries. A barrier of twisted space-time still surrounded the human homeworld, just as it had been designed. What about the monitoring stations? Veltar asked. Any changes in human activity? Jack's crystal surface flickered with what might have been embarrassment. That is the other problem, Speaker. 3 of our monitoring stations have gone offline in recent weeks. We sent repair crews, but what? The stations are still there. They are still broadcasting. But when our technicians try to examine them, they find only empty shells filled with sophisticated holograms. Veltar felt a chill run through his old body. How long has this been happening? We are not sure. The holograms are perfect copies. They could have been in place for years or decades or centuries. Veltar finished the thought. He walked to his desk and activated the emergency communication system. This is Council. Speaker Veltar. I am calling an immediate emergency session. All council members are to report to the main chamber within 1 hour. 2 hours later, representatives from all 12 galactic civilizations gathered in the Great Chamber where they had once condemned humanity to exile. The mood was tense and fearful. Fellow councilors, Veltar began, we may have made a terrible mistake. Magistrate Coral, the insect-like representative of the hive worlds, chittered nervously. What kind of mistake, Speaker? The kind that might destroy us all, Veltar replied. He shared the reports Jack had compiled. Disappearing pirates, stolen artifacts, mysterious technologies that could fool the galaxy's best sensors. Most troubling of all, the possibility that the Sol system might be empty. Impossible, declared Secretary Yilma of the Gossamer Collective. We have maintained constant surveillance of the human system for 200 years. If they had developed new technology, we would know. Would we? Asked Veltar. What if they develop technology we cannot detect? What if they have been free for decades or centuries and we never noticed? The chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. The idea that humanity might have escaped their prison was terrifying enough. The possibility that they had done so without anyone noticing was worse. Even if they escaped, said Ambassador Thren of the Valdorian Empire, what could they possibly have accomplished? It has only been 200 years. They were confined to a single star system with limited resources. 200 years is a long time, Veltar replied. Long enough to develop new technologies. Long enough to establish colonies. Long enough to plan revenge. Senior Analyst Korth of the Scientific Collective stood up. He was a thin, pale being with large black eyes. Speaker, with your permission, I would like to share some calculations I have been working on. Proceed, Analyst. Korth activated his own holographic display. I have been studying the pattern of disappearances and thefts. If we assume a single organization is responsible, and if we extrapolate from the resources they would need to accomplish these tasks, numbers and charts filled the air above the council chamber. The representatives watched in growing horror as Korth's calculations revealed the scope of what they might be facing. Based on the evidence, Korth concluded, whoever is responsible for these activities commands a fleet of at least 10,000 ships, controls multiple star systems, and possesses technology far beyond our current understanding. The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what Korth was really saying. Only one organization could have grown so powerful without being detected. How many humans did we exile? Asked Councillor Jek. Approximately 15 billion, Veltar replied. And how many might there be now? Veltar did not answer immediately. The mathematics were simple, but the implications were staggering. 200 years of unrestricted population growth combined with advanced life extension technology could mean hundreds of billions, he said finally. Maybe more. Before anyone could respond, every alarm system in Alpha Centauri station began screaming at once. Emergency lights bathed the chamber in red as automated voices announced, "Unknown vessels detected. Multiple unknown vessels detected. All defense systems activated." Through the chamber's transparent dome, the counselors could see shapes materializing in space around the station. Ships unlike anything in the galactic database appeared from nowhere, their hulls gleaming with an inner light that seemed to bend space around them. There were dozens of them, then hundreds, then thousands. The largest ship positioned itself directly above the council chamber. It was massive, easily the size of a small moon. Strange energies played across its surface, and symbols in an unknown script glowed along its hull. A new voice filled the chamber, transmitted by technology that bypassed all of the station's security systems. The voice was human, speaking in perfect Altarian with just a hint of an accent that Veltar remembered from long ago. "Greetings, honored representatives of the Galactic Council. This is Admiral Chen Lin of the Terran Federation Navy. I come with a message from President Santos of the Terran Federation." The holographic image of a human woman appeared in the center of the chamber. She was tall and confident, wearing a uniform decorated with symbols that represented star systems none of the counselors recognized. 200 years ago, the human admiral continued, "You exiled my people because you believed we were too dangerous for civilized space. Today, the Terran Federation formally announces its existence and its desire for diplomatic relations with all galactic civilizations." Admiral Chen Lin paused, letting her words sink in. Around the chamber, the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy stared at her in stunned silence. "We harbor no ill will toward your species," she said. "The exile you imposed upon us was a gift, though you did not intend it as such. It forced us to become something greater than we were. We have grown strong in the darkness between the stars, and now we offer our strength to the galaxy that once rejected us." Veltar found his voice at last. "How many of you are there?" The human admiral smiled. "Enough, Speaker Veltar. More than enough." The implications hung in the air like a storm cloud. Humanity had not just survived their exile, they had used it to build an empire that could challenge the entire galaxy. And now they had returned, not as prisoners begging for freedom, but as conquerors offering terms. The sleeping giant had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. President Maria Santos stood in the observation deck of the Prometheus, flagship of the Terran Federation Navy. Through the massive windows, she could see the 12 homeworlds of the former Galactic Council spread out before her like jewels, in the darkness. Each world glowed with the lights of billions of beings who had just learned they were no longer the masters of the galaxy. It had been 6 months since Admiral Chen Lin's fleet appeared above Alpha Centauri Station. 6 months of careful negotiations, demonstrations of power, and delicate diplomacy. The galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality that humanity had become its dominant civilization. "Madam President," came a voice behind her. She turned to see Dr. Elena Vasquez approaching, now nearly 2 centuries old but still sharp as a blade. The former ambassador had become humanity's chief advisor on alien relations. "Elena," President Santos smiled. "How did the morning's meetings go?" "Better than expected," Elena replied. "The Altarians have agreed to our proposal for joint exploration of the Outer Rim. The Valdorians want to discuss military cooperation. Even the Zephyrians are interested in our trade agreements." President Santos nodded with satisfaction. The past months had been a masterpiece of careful strategy. Instead of demanding submission or seeking revenge for the exile, humanity had offered partnership. They shared their medical advances, helped solve resource shortages, and provided protection from the pirates that had been terrorizing galactic shipping. "Any resistance?" President Santos asked. "Less than we feared," Elena admitted. "The Gossamer Collective is still suspicious of our motives. The Hive worlds are concerned about cultural contamination, but overall, they are adapting to the new situation." It helped that humanity had demonstrated restraint in their return to galactic society. When pirates attacked a Valdorian colony convoy, Terran ships appeared within minutes to drive off the attackers. When a plague threatened to wipe out the Silicate homeworld, human medical teams provided a cure within days. Each act of benevolence reinforced the message that humanity sought cooperation, not conquest. But President Santos knew the real reason for the aliens' cooperation. Fear. The first demonstration had come just 2 weeks after Admiral Chen Lin's announcement. A notorious pirate leader named Velkoth the Destroyer had broadcast a challenge across the galaxy, claiming that no human fleet could match his armada of 500 ships. Admiral Chen Lin had accepted the challenge personally. The battle lasted exactly 97 seconds. Human ships phased in and out of normal space like ghosts, their weapons tearing through pirate defenses as if they were made of paper. When it was over, Velkoth's entire fleet had been captured or destroyed, and the pirate leader himself was in custody aboard a Terran vessel. The message was clear to every civilization in the galaxy. Humanity had become something beyond their ability to resist. "Madam President," came another voice. Captain Zhang Wei entered the observation deck, now promoted to admiral and serving as the Federation's chief explorer. "We have received confirmation from the deep space survey teams." "What did they find?" President Santos asked. 3 more architect sites in the void zones. Each one contains technologies we have never seen before. The xenoarchaeology teams estimate it will take decades just to catalog everything we are discovering. President Santos smiled. The ancient ruins, scattered throughout the void regions, continued to provide humanity with technological advantages over the rest of the galaxy. Weapons that could destroy planets, defensive systems that made ships nearly invulnerable, manufacturing techniques that could build cities in days rather than years. "Any signs of what happened to the architects themselves?" she asked. "Still nothing definitive," Admiral Zhang replied. "But there are hints that they may not be completely extinct. Some of the newest sites contain references to a great journey to places beyond the galactic rim." The implications were fascinating. If the architects had not died out, but had simply moved on to explore other galaxies, humanity might eventually follow in their footsteps. The universe was vast, with countless galaxies to explore and civilizations to meet. But first, there was work to do in their current galaxy. "Madam President," Elena said, "there is something else we should discuss. The younger generation of human citizens are asking questions about our policy toward the alien civilizations." "What kind of questions?" "Why we are being so generous. Why we are sharing our advantages instead of simply taking control of the galaxy. Some of them think we are being too soft." President Santos had expected this. Many humans still remembered the stories their grandparents told about the exile. They wanted the aliens to suffer as humanity had suffered. They could not understand why their leaders chose partnership over domination. "What do you tell them?" President Santos asked. "I tell them the truth," Elena replied, "that we are better than they were, that our exile taught us wisdom as well as strength, that an empire built on fear and hatred will eventually fall, but an empire built on mutual benefit can last forever." "And do they believe you?" Elena smiled sadly. "Some do. Others will need to see the results for themselves." Through the observation deck windows, President Santos could see human and alien ships working together to construct a new space station. Humans provided the advanced technology and engineering expertise, while aliens contributed raw materials and specialized knowledge from their different scientific traditions. It was a perfect symbol of what the Terran Federation hoped to achieve. Not the replacement of alien civilizations, but their elevation and integration into something greater than any single species could accomplish alone. "Admiral Zhang," President Santos said, "how is the new exploration program proceeding?" "Excellently, Madam President. We now have joint human-alien crews exploring the regions beyond the galactic rim. The Valdorians provide excellent navigators, the Altarians are skilled diplomats for first contact situations, and the Gossamer Collective's scientists complement our own research teams perfectly." This too was part of humanity's long-term strategy. Instead of keeping their technological advantages secret, they were gradually sharing them with selected alien partners. In return, they gained access to centuries of alien knowledge and experience. The partnership benefited everyone involved. "Any interesting discoveries?" President Santos asked. 3 potentially habitable systems in the small Magellanic Cloud," Admiral Zhang replied excitedly, "and signs of artificial structures in the Andromeda Galaxy. We may not be alone in the local group after all." President Santos felt her pulse quicken. The discovery of new civilizations would present fresh challenges and opportunities. But humanity was ready. 2 centuries of exile had taught them patience, wisdom, and the importance of approaching other beings with respect rather than arrogance. "Madam President," came a new voice. Admiral Chen Lin entered the observation deck, her expression serious. We have received a priority communication from Earth. What does it say? The Sol system archaeological teams have made an incredible discovery. They found a sealed vault beneath the ruins of the old United Nations building. Inside were records left by Ambassador Elena Vasquez just before she departed for Alpha Centauri Station. Elena looked surprised. I do not remember leaving any records. According to the team leader, they are not just records. Admiral Chen, Lin continued. They are predictions, detailed forecasts of how the exile would unfold, what technologies humanity would develop, and how we would eventually return to galactic society. The observation deck fell silent. Everyone stared at Elena, who looked genuinely puzzled. I have no memory of writing such predictions, she said slowly. But then again, I was under enormous stress during those final days. Perhaps I wrote them and then forgot or blocked the memory somehow. Or perhaps, President Santos said thoughtfully, someone wanted to leave a message for the future, knowing that we would find it at exactly the right moment. She turned to look out at the galaxy spread before them. Humanity had come so far from the species that had been exiled 2 centuries ago. They had grown in wisdom, power, and understanding. They had learned to see opportunities where others saw only obstacles. Whatever the source of those records, President Santos said finally, they remind us that everything we have achieved was earned through patience, determination, and the refusal to accept defeat. The aliens who exiled us thought they were protecting the galaxy from humanity's potential for destruction. She paused, watching as human and alien workers continued building their shared future among the stars. Instead, they forced us to realize our potential for creation. They thought they were caging a dangerous animal. What they actually did was give a sleeping giant the time and motivation to become something magnificent. Elena smiled, her ancient eyes twinkling with satisfaction. And now the giant is awake and it offers its strength to those who once feared it. Yes, President Santos agreed. And this is only the beginning. We have an entire universe to explore, new civilizations to meet, and wonders to discover that we cannot even imagine yet. Through the windows of the Prometheus, the lights of a dozen worlds twinkled like stars, each one representing billions of beings who had learned that humanity's return to galactic society brought hope rather than destruction. The exile was over. The reckoning was complete.